Hi, I welcome you all in YuktMind's unique initiative 10 Minutes and Newspaper Done. In this video, we'll be covering June 20th, the Hindu newspaper. You can download the PDF of these news from our website www.yuktmind.com under the Current Affairs tab. Or also, you can download the PDF from our Telegram channel, the link of which is given in description below. Let's get started. We'll be covering 8 news today, starting with finding of Mesolithic era rock paintings. India gives INS Kirpan to Vietnam, World Refugee Day, Summit on Environmental Financing, Agreement to Protect Marine Life, Gender Apartheid in Kabul, Withdrawal of Duty Benefit Scheme by UK, and final news on Phonons. Starting with the first news. A Mesolithic period rock painting depicting a person tilling a piece of land has been found in Guntur district of Andhra Pradesh. It was noticed that there were shelters for prehistoric humans who lived at this place. Among these five naturally formed caves, two are embellished with distinguished depictions of rock paintings on the back walls and ceilings executed by people of Mesolithic age roughly around 5000 BC. The paintings were made with natural white kaolin and red ochre pigments. Ochre is a pigment composed of clay, sand, and ferric oxide. Kaolinite is a soft, earthy, and usually white mineral produced by the chemical weathering of aluminium silicate minerals like feldspar. Moving on to the second news. India gifted the indigenously built in service missile corvette INS Kirpan to Vietnam to enhance its naval capabilities. INS Kirpan is a Khurki class missile corvette. India has been upping its defense cooperation with Vietnam. In June 2022, India and Vietnam signed an MOU on mutual logistics support. Now, the third news. World Refugee Day is an international day designated by the United Nations to honor refugees around the globe. It falls each year on June 20 and celebrates the strength and courage of people who have been forced to flee their home country to escape conflict or persecution. The theme for this year has been Hope Away from Home. As of now, there are over 258 million migrants around the world living outside their country of birth. UN has taken many actions for refugees. One amongst them is 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 Protocol. They are the only global legal instruments explicitly covering the most important aspects of a refugee's life. According to their provisions, refugees deserve, as a minimum, the right standards of treatment enjoyed by other foreign nationals in a given country, and in many cases, the same treatment as nationals. The 1951 Convention contains a number of rights and also highlights the obligation of refugees towards their host country. The cornerstone of 1951 Convention is the principle of non-refoulement. According to this principle, a refugee should not be returned to a country where he or she faces serious threats to his or her life or freedom. This protection may not be claimed by refugees who are reasonably regarded as a danger to the security of the country, or having been convicted of a particularly serious crime, are considered a danger to the community. Now, let us talk about Global Compact for Migration. The Global Compact for Migration is the first intergovernmentally negotiated agreement prepared under the auspices of the United Nations to cover all dimensions of international migration in a holistic and comprehensive manner. Now, the fourth news. Paris Summit for a new global financing pact is being held to take concrete steps for sustainable finance. French President Macron says the agenda is to increase financial solidarity with the global south. India, the president of G20 this year, is co chairing the steering committee of the summit with France and can be counted on to be the voice of global south. Now, let us talk about promises and payment. According to One Planet Labs white papers released for the summit, the scale of investment needed to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Climate COP21, and Biodiversity COP15 objectives set at the global and national levels is to the tune of an additional $4 trillion every year. But the hard truth is that only $204 billion of official development assistance came last year, a record in itself. This gap between promises and payment goes to show that international funding is unpredictable and poorly structured and does not address the liquidity challenges of developing nations. Further, global funds clamp down on the fiscal independence of these developing countries by posing several conditions before the money comes in. The Finance Summit is scheduled in the middle of a consequential year, which includes discussions around reforms to the World Bank, India's G20 presidency, the UN's SDG Summit, the UN Secretary General's Climate Ambition Summit, and the COP28 that will include the first global stocktake under the Paris Agreement. It must therefore include three components: pact, platform, and pathway. First, create a pact for global flows of finance that covers two levels of social contracts, that is, domestic and international. At the domestic level, high debt limits the fiscal space of developing countries. Increasing the space of countries would need modernizing and standardizing existing tax structures, clamping down on illegal cross border money movement, empowering tax administrations, and curbing ineffectual fossil fuel subsidies. These efforts should be accompanied by proportionate taxation of actors and goods involved in emission intensive global flows. At the international level, finance is needed for adaptation as well as loss and damage stemming from climate change. New resources can be mobilized by tapping into global flows, such as taxing the production of fossil fuels, shipping of goods, and transportation of fossil fuels. Second, create a global platform to de risk finance and mobilize large volumes of private investment in sustainable infrastructure. Finally, chart a political pathway that creates time bound deliverables on climate finance from one summit to another. Members of the United Nations adopted the first ever treaty to protect marine life in high seas on June 19th, with the UN's chief hailing the historic agreement as giving the ocean a fighting chance. The treaty had been under discussion for more than 20 years as efforts to reach an agreement had repeatedly stalled. Now, the sixth news. The UN's top experts on rights in Afghanistan urged countries to consider making gender apartheid an international crime, helping hold the Taliban accountable for its abuses against Afghan women. Now, moving on to the seventh news. According to experts, the UK's decision to withdraw the duty benefit scheme from its generalized scheme of preferences, that is GSP, may impact exporters from certain labor intensive sectors. The UK is replacing the GSP with a new developing countries trading scheme from June 19th. Labor intensive sectors, including certain textile items, leather goods, carpets, iron and steel goods, and chemicals, may get impacted due to this. The US, European Union, Australia, Japan, and many other developed countries grant unilateral import concessions to developing countries under their GSP schemes. As UK has come out of EU, it has designed its own GSP scheme. Now, the final news of the day. Quantum computers and artificial intelligence are two of the emerging areas of interest in the realm of computing. Recently, IBM published a paper in which it claimed to have demonstrated that a quantum computer could solve a useful problem that today's conventional computers can't. A result merited by concerns that their computations might become too unreliable when they also become complicated. So, what are qubits? Quantum computers use qubits as their basic unit of information. A qubit can be a particle like an electron, a collection of particles, or a quantum system engineered to behave like a particle. Particles can do funky things that large objects like the semiconductors of classical computers can't because they are guided by the rules of quantum physics. For example, these rules allow each qubit to have the values on and off at the same time. The premise of quantum computing is that information can be encoded in some property of the particle, like an electron spin, and then processed using these peculiar abilities. As a result, quantum computers are expected to perform complicated calculations that are out of the reach of best supercomputers of today. Other forms of quantum computing use other units of information. For example, linear optical quantum computing, that is LOQC, uses photons, the particles of lights, as qubits. LOQC offers to use optical equipment like mirrors, lenses, splitters, waveplates with photons to process information. Now let us understand about phonons. Photons are packets of light energy. Similarly, phonons are packets of vibrational energy. While researchers can manipulate electrons using electric currents, magnetic fields, etc., and photons with mirrors, lenses, etc., they needed new tools to manipulate phonons. To this end, in the new study, researchers from University of Chicago have reported developing an acoustic beam splitter. So the question is, can we have a computer based on phonons? The answer is it is still a long way from here to a functional quantum computer that uses phonons as units of information. Thank you for watching this video. You can download the PDF of these news from our website www.yuktmind.com under current affairs tab. Or also you can download the PDF from our Telegram channel, the link of which is given in description below. Thank you.